Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be making a little doll inspired by a willowing or Tamara Laporte, and I've called her Little Miss Sunshine because she really is. So this is a page of my Dina Workley journal, and as you can see it's been a bit of a use it up page for my brayer and for some foam stamps that I've been stamping off. And I decided I wanted to put something bright and happy over the top. So I've been playing around with these little doll shapes after seeing some of Tamara's stuff, and I wanted to have a go at doing one of her little shapes again. So just using a round container to draw a circle, and then using some book page to create a little dress that I'm going to have a little collage dress, and then putting some arms on. Now I'm not very good at drawing faces, I need practice at drawing faces, but I'm not very good at drawing hands. So my go-to cheat for drawing hands is actually just to sort of draw them going into the back of the dress so it looks like the hands are behind their back. So I'm using the Jane Davenport portrait paints to paint the face, and I'm drying that off, and then I'm going to just glue down my book page. The reason I'm using the Jane Davenport paints, particularly on this page, is because I've done a previous little doll like this, which I've got up on my channel already, and as I was doing it I found that I'd put some gel medium over the paint, the skin colored paint, and it made it not as matte, so it didn't have the tooth to grab into the colour pencils that I wanted to use to do some shading. So I wanted to do this again, to try again with my pencil shading, and I do this quite often when I'm sort of working and something hasn't worked. I liked it but it hasn't worked well. I do it again until I'm happy with I've worked out the problems. So one, it's good practice, but two, it just helps me clarify things in my head that, you know, this worked for this reason, or it didn't work for this reason, or you need to do this next time. And I think that's really important part of the learning process, that you don't just do it once and go, yep, got that under my belt, I can do that now, but you actually go back and try it a few times. And I know for some people, I suppose, doing things over and over again isn't their cup of tea. I don't tend to do them too many times, but I do like to make sure that I've really nutted out what I want to get out of it. So for this particular process, it was that face drawing and getting that shading using the pencil. I really wanted to sort of work that out. So again, I'm using very similar shapes and really simple shapes to draw this body. It's not difficult, and one of the things I have learned as I've gone along is if you can sort of look at things and find those simplest shapes in them, you'll probably find it a lot easier to draw. If you break something down in sort of rectangles and triangles and circles, it makes it a lot easier to add the detail in afterwards. So I would challenge you to, if you're really struggling with something, try and forget all the detail in it and just look for the main shapes. So at the moment I'm doing my sketching for my face, and I've divided my face into half, and then in the bottom half of the page I've divided it into quarters and eighths. Your lips actually come very far down in your face. A lot of people sort of draw them halfway up, but they actually come very near to the bottom of your chin. So just sort of getting that face mapping is really important. There are lots and lots of brilliant tutorials on YouTube on how to face map. I would highly recommend James Luke Burke Creative. He's one that I've learned an awful lot from with how he designs his faces. He has this really, just like Tamara, has this really sort of cute, whimsical way, which I really love too, because I'm not expected to draw it realistically. I can have really big eyes and really small lips, and that's okay. So if you want to improve your face drawing, there's lots of things out there that you can sort of research and look up. So I would suggest YouTube's a really great place to start. So once I've sort of drawn in the basic features, I'm going back in and putting some details. And as I was doing this, the blue dress and the red trim, I it really made me think of Snow White, which I loved, but instead of going with the black hair, I went with blonde, which is why I've sort of nicknamed her Little Miss Sunshine. And while those people who follow my channel for a long time know that fuchsia is my favourite colour, I was actually really upset with myself that I didn't use a pure red underneath rather than that sort of pinky purpley colour. So it didn't quite work for me, but I think in the end I actually go over and repaint it. One of the things I do a lot when I'm drawing faces or sketching something out is I use a water-soluble pencil. So the pencil I'm using is a Stabilo All pencil. And the reason for that is if I don't like where something is, I can move it. I can get a bit of water, a wet wipe, and sort of move it out of the way to somewhere I actually want it to go. When I'm sort of drawing with acrylic paints, I can also blend that line into my acrylic paints, and it sort of gives me instant shading as well. So for this I'm using the Jane Davenport Magic Wands, but any colour pencils will work. And I tend to start off with my darkest purples and go through to my lightest colours. Now her face looks very dirty in this. I just wasn't getting the sort of looks that I wanted with it. I was kind of fighting a losing battle, but it sort of, once I put in some details to it, it sort of came back again. I was a little bit heavy-handed with the black on this, and then I added water to it to try and soften it off, and it didn't quite work. So you can see me sort of putting some stuff in and blending it off. My nose is a little bit wonky. I think she's broken her nose at some stage, so it's all a learning curve. So I will do this again to try and work out my face again and the shading again. I'm very lucky this weekend. I'm going to a face drawing class by Tracy Scott, who's from Paper Artsy. So hopefully I'll learn some more techniques of that. I've been challenging myself to use acrylic paints, not acrylic paints, I use those all the time, colour pencils, because I really don't use colour pencils very often. So that is something that's a challenge for me, to try and use those effectively, to try and get an idea of how they blend together and so on. And it's really important to do that and challenge yourself to use things that you don't use very often, to make them something that you're more comfortable with using. I'm certainly more comfortable to pick up a colour pencil than I was 6 months ago, but I've still got a long way to go. So just to put in her hair, I've got sort of this long flowy hair. I did paint it in white first because I did have such a busy background and I wanted the yellow to really stand out. So I put the white in the background. That's a really good trick if you really want to blot something out. Put a layer of white down, just helps everything pop. Now I'm going back in with my paint pen to add in the whites of the eyes and the little catch-alls in the eye, and putting in some more shading just to cover over the bits and pieces that I've sort of painted over. So you can see me going in, and I didn't really like the blue that I had in the eye, so I went over my acrylic paint that I'd used to sort of match it in. Now I'm just going back over my pencil and adding in some sketchy lines to show sort of where the hair is kind of travelling on the page. One of the things you might notice with my face is I've left in the face marking things where I've divided the face up. I quite like that because it sort of shows it's still a work in progress. You could certainly use a really light pencil and rub those out if it's something that really bugs you, but I quite like sort of seeing the process of where it's come from, where it's going to. So now I'm just going in with a white pen to add some extra details onto the dress, which I was really liking, but as I was doing it I was really noticing that that pink just wasn't working on that page for me. So I just went over with the red paint, sort of made it into a bit of a glaze over the top, just to sort of make it look more like it belonged on the page. Finally I'm going in with some of the woody, Stabilo Woody pencils, which are really chunky pencils that are great for mixed media. They go over anything. And going over the writing just to, again, pop it out and grab that colour back into the red to mix up, make some of that writing pop again. So that's pretty much the final page. I did a little bit of mark making in the background with the foam stamps, and all I want to do is to add a bit of a quote. So the quote I ended up putting on my page was, "You are made of sunshine and stardust," I think. And that's just some quotes that I've printed out to sticker paper that I can just stick down on my page. It's really quick and easy. So this is a close-up of the final page. And you can see it's still a work in progress. It's something I'm still going to work on. But I was really pleased with how it turned out. She's quite cute and she did what I wanted to do. And it was a great use of the background. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, bye for now.